Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all doing well. Now today I've got a very special guest. I'm delighted to be joined by Graham, who a lot of people will know from AFTV. So thank you so much, Graham, for coming on my channel today. First of all, how are you doing? Did you have a nice Christmas?
I did, Sophie. Yes, it was a very nice family Christmas. Just a quiet one this year with my wife and son. So just a quiet Christmas. Obviously, Arsenal did their best to ruin my Christmas last night because I went to the game, but we lost 2-0 to West Ham. I know we're going to probably talk about that, but yeah, very nice Christmas. How about yourself?
Yeah, I had a good Christmas, thanks to just a pretty chilled one. It's just nice to switch off a bit and just have that time with family as well. So I'm really happy that you had a great Christmas too. But like you said, Arsenal didn't make it easy for us. I thought it would have been. I did think it would be a difficult game because West Ham this season, I think, have done pretty well. But I just thought that performance did surprise me. But for you, your thoughts on the game, did that performance surprise you?
Well, like you, I thought it was going to be a difficult game. They'd just come off the back of beating Manchester United. I knew David Moyes would have them set up very well defensively. I did expect to win the game, I'll be honest, but I thought it'd be a tight game. And obviously, we dominated the game. I mean, we had something like 30 shots, we had 75% possession, 8 on target, we had 10 corners, we had 77 touches in their box, Sophie, which is a record, I think, for a Premier League game. We've had 81 shots in our last 4 games and only scored 3 goals. So you can see what the problem is at the moment. We're playing good football,
Yeah.
albeit in this new style that Arteta wants to play, which is like controlled football, which has stifled us, I think, because we used to be very good playing quickly through the thirds and getting at teams, but we play this more controlled football now. And teams get back in a low block and stop us from scoring, I think, and it's getting harder to score goals. I think we do lack a striker. I mean, when you've got a team where not one player scored more than 5 goals in the Premier League, that tells you where your problem is, because you're not going to win a league if you haven't got a striker. So, the performance last night, we conceded a goal. We have to say that probably looked as though it was over the line, more VAR controversy, but I'm not going to blame that for the Arsenal defeat. We just weren't good enough on the night, and West Ham defended very well. And in the end, it wasn't the result we wanted. And so all the good work of getting the point at Anfield on the weekend was undone, really. And we haven't really taken advantage of Manchester City's recent slip where they haven't been winning games. So, because if they win their game in hand now, they go level on points with us. So it's a disappointing night. I think, the team needs to regroup. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the transfer window now in January, because I think Arteta has already hinted he's not going to change the forward line. He's not in the market for a striker. But, on the evidence of last night, I think we desperately need one.
Yeah, I've been saying this for like the longest time ever. Like, we really need a striker. I know Jesus is that guy that starts, but I just don't think him, Nketiah, is enough for us. And I think this season we do play a little bit different. I think Martinelli obviously hasn't really. I'm not sure what's going on there, but he's not doing great. And I feel like Saka's doing a lot of the work as well. But for you, like, I don't obviously expect us to, perform well every game, because it does happen. You do have these bad games, but why do you think we were quite poor? Because we, like you said, we had 30 shots on target or something, and we weren't able to score. We did have good spells in the game, but why do you think we struggled a lot in the game?
Obviously, the first goal in that game's massive. I think had we scored the first goal, I think we win the game. I honestly believe that. They scored very early, Sophie. I think it was about 12 minutes. And the moment they score the first goal, they can sit in their deep block with everybody behind the ball, which is what they did. They had about 9 players behind the ball a lot of the time. So they're very hard to break down. You talked about Gabriel Martinelli. I think one of the reasons why he's slightly less effective this season is by the way we've changed the way we play. And that is, it's more controlled football. So he's like a player he's got very direct pace. He can run in behind. But if we're not playing it quickly to him so he can get in behind, we're playing more build-up play. That's not playing to his strength. So I think, we've had that new left side this year with Havertz coming in. Obviously, Xhaka was there last year. The left side hasn't been functioning so well. But one of the reasons why it's not working so well for him is because I think we're slower in build up, and I think he likes quick play. He likes the ball played quickly through the third, so he can run in behind defences. And we're not playing like that now. We're playing more control football. The problem last night was if you don't move the ball quickly, and we didn't do that so well in this game, they get back in a low block. They got everybody behind the ball, and what was happening was we were going out to one side. They were getting behind the ball, doubling up on Saka. It was then coming back into midfield and going over to the other side. And then somebody was coming across the double on Martinelli. Then we were recycling it again. So basically, without a target man in the middle, you're relying on very intricate play to play through them. And they were defending really solidly last night. They got blocks in. They were sort of like covering the ground, covering the space. And we tried to play too intricate football, and we've got control, but it's sort of like passive control, and we're not able to break teams down when we play like that. I think that's been one of the problems this season, because I think there has been a definite shift this year in the way we played. It's gone away from this sort of like transition, quick football, playing out through the back, more, catching teams in transition, more to just control. So we were allowing teams to get set. They're all coming to the Emirates now. I've noticed it every single game. Low block, 8 or 9 behind the ball. And if you can have the ball, we push up to the halfway line. We have a lot of the ball. We have 75% possession. We have the field tilt. We have massive. The game's played in their half, but they look more dangerous sometimes. Last night, West Ham on the break. I'm not saying they created anything, but they looked like they could create something. Whereas we, for all our technical ability on the ball and territory, didn't look like breaking them down. Having said that, we did miss some chances. Gabriel Jesus was guilty of a couple of big misses, and Saka in the first minute had a great chance. He was through and he just poked it limply at the goalkeeper. So we're not taking our chances, and we've got this new style of the way we build up that's allowing teams to sit deep and defend against us. So that's two of the problems, and that surfaced again last night.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I do think this season we are playing different. Obviously, we've lost a few players. I know Xhaka was a big player in his last few seasons at Arsenal, and obviously on midfield as well. We've obviously got a few different players, like you said, Havertz. I think he's really proven to be a good player, but I did think we missed him yesterday because I feel like he does a lot of, work off the ball, and it's really hard, especially when you've got Partey out as well. I know Timber and
Yeah.
Tomiyasu defensively, they really help our team. But I really agree with your point about West Ham's first goal. Like I've said, that goal, I'm not going to blame we lost because of that, but it does change the game because up until that point, I thought we were the team that were looking likely to score. We were dominating. But for you, do you reckon that really affected the confidence in the first half? Because we just really struggled to score. It felt like it really knocked our confidence.
I didn't think it affected the confidence. I didn't think that last night. We thought if we carried on playing the way we were going to play, we were going to score. It was sort of like that's the how they transmitted that from the pitch to the fans. I don't think the crowd were really up for the game as much as I thought we would be last night. I think that it's been more rocking this season than it was last night for a night fixture. But I don't think it affected the team's confidence going one down because, and to be fair to the crowd, they did immediately get behind the team when the goal went in. As the fans always do when Arsenal concede. I'm not saying there was an overconfidence. I just think that I don't think it was the confidence that was lacking. It was technique in the box. Not being able to sort of like finish the chances that we created, and then obviously allowing them to get set in their deep block a lot of the time to stop us from really opening them up. I would like to see sort of like sometimes us play quicker through the thirds. Someone like Thomas Partey was a player I was looking at last. Well, he wasn't playing last night, but he was a player I'm thinking last night watching it. If we could have had someone like Thomas Partey who could have broke the lines and sort of like moved the ball quicker, and we needed to get, I think, Gabriel Martinelli on the ball in more advanced areas, one-on-one more with his defender, not build it up so slowly, then push it out to him when he's got two coming across to cover him straight away, so he has to recycle it back. I don't think it's a lack of confidence in the team. I just think it's on the night we came up against a team who defended very well. We just couldn't get the breakthrough. and we didn't take what chances we had. We had 30 shots, 8 on target, but they were low quality shots. I have to say that. I didn't think their goalkeeper made a lot of saves, but there were saves that I think he should have made. There was one really outstanding save from a header. Saka hit the post. But we had a lot of shots last night, but I didn't think that they were, um, sort of like high quality shots. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
think overall, I think we just needed to do something different, and we just carried on playing the same way, thinking that we were going to score. The longer it went on, I think the subs he brought on didn't have any impact on the game at all. I think when you're taking off Martinelli and you're bringing on Reece Nelson, who hasn't played very much, he's not going to offer anything much more than what than Martinelli does. Smith Rowe did obviously look, I think, better than Trossard in that number 8 position without really influencing the game. And I do think Trossard at number 8, I don't like him there. I don't know what you think about it. I like him as a false 9, and sometimes he's been better out wide, although he's not as good as Martinelli out wide, I would say, overall. But I didn't think he had a bit of a stinker last night, I thought, in that position. He had one shot saved, but I don't see him as that sort of left-sided 8, to be honest. So I don't think it was a lack of confidence. I think the team kept going, showed character to keep going, kept trying, but just didn't have the ability on the night to unlock a very stubborn West Ham team.
Yeah, I definitely think that as well. I feel like with Arsenal, what I've noticed this season is I feel like we're quite predictable. Like, especially when we get in the box, like the teams can work us out, which I think is something that we are struggling with. And I think Odegaard last night, I think he definitely helped with, especially when we were in the box trying to find the right passes, because West
Mm.
Ham defensively did pretty good. I mean, like you said, I think our shots, weren't exactly spectacular, but we
No,
did, obviously, we never gave up, but I do feel like when that goal went in, we struggled to score after that, but it does take us time to score in games sometimes. But yeah, I do think it's obviously very disappointing night for us, and
yeah,
for you, obviously, it's been a disappointing result for us. I know, obviously, Raya did save that penalty, but we knew at that point we lost the game. But for
yeah.
you, what do you think as a fan and as opposed as the players? What do you think you've learned from this defeat?
I think you've learned. First of all, I think the Premier League is such a competitive league. That's one thing I learned from last night, because West Ham are 6th or 7th in the league, but they're capable of going to they won at Tottenham, they won at the Emirates. I think the teams are taking points off each other. It's very competitive this season, the Premier League, So although it's tight up the top there, Liverpool are top, we're second, Villa are there, Man City, without really being at their best, are there. And you've got sort of like teams like West Ham up there, Brighton are up there. What I'm saying is that these teams are capable of giving anybody a game on their day. This is such a competitive league. So that showed me last night that you can't take any result for granted. You think West Ham at home is a nailed-on banker, but they came to the Emirates with a game plan. They've got some good players. Kudos is a good player. Paqueta, who went off last night, is a good player. Bowen's on fire. I think he scored more goals this season than our whole front three put together. So the one thing, it showed you the competitiveness and the strength of the Premier League last night. That's what I learned last night. And that every game, you're not guaranteed winning the game.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, a few seasons back you could predict, about who we could beat, but it's definitely really competitive. And like going to the game, like you said, we both knew it would be a tough game because West Ham obviously sold Declan Rice, but they've obviously replaced him and brought some great signings in. But
They did, yeah.
I think for
They spent
me,
they spent the money. They
yeah,
spent the money really well, so didn't they? I think they've got they must have in that contract that they signed. He has to lose every game to West Ham. I think because he's now
I
lost
know
both
every game
games
we
against West Ham. So yeah, so they spent their money really wisely, and they've got some good players, West Ham, and they won a European trophy last year, and they're up there, aren't they? They've just beaten Man United. They won at Tottenham the other week. I like Ward-Prowse. I know he didn't. He's added
yeah.
something. His assists. So, and defensively, it has to be said. Last night they didn't have both their normal starting centre halves last night, But the two players that come in did really well. Mavropanos, one of our old players, actually scored their second goal, didn't they?
And I
So
couldn't believe
yeah,
when it
so
was him as well. I was like,
incredible. Yeah.
typical Arsenal thing for an old Arsenal player to score. But I did want to actually ask you a bit about Saka because I know a lot of
Mm.
fans or people online. Do you think he does seem like he's not scoring as much this season? He's not having much of an impact. I know that when you do watch him, for me, he's one of our attackers that really does try to make things happen, even if he doesn't score. For you, do you think Saka has improved this season?
Um, I think, well, first of all, last season he had an outstanding season. I think he had something like 14 goals. Him and Martinelli, who was scoring so many goals last season, were one of the reasons why we went so close. We had 50 goals shared around the front four, didn't we? So if Jesus is not scoring so many, if Saka and Martinelli are scoring goals, uh, that does make up for if your striker's not a prolific scorer. And so you've seen this season when his returns, as have Martinelli's, dropped. That's when it's being highlighted. We haven't got a striker.
Mm-hmm.
I think he set such high standards, Saka. I still think this season I've seen. Um, I think the last few games he hasn't quite been as good as what he has been. But I mean, he's still. You forget his age. He's still a really young player. I still think he's our best attacking player going forward. He gets tackles in as well. He's able to combine with Odegaard and White up high. He's got that lovely little movement now where he because they're doubling up with him on the outside. Sometimes Ben White will invert and he'll come in field away from the fullback and it'll be threaded into the right hand half space in the inside forward position for him to run onto. I think he has to take a lot in games, a lot of responsibility every week. The way he's doubled up on, the way he doesn't get protected by referees. They sort of rotationally queue up to foul him. So, and I think he sets such high standards that if he's slightly dipping, the eye test tells you this season he's not been as good as last season. So, but if I look at the numbers, his numbers generally, which is a good way for assessing a player, are still pretty good. The numbers he obviously could do with maybe a few more goals at the moment. His goals have slightly dried up, and his finishing was a bit limp last night when he did hit the post, of course. But I think his numbers still reasonably good. I think last year he was exceptional. So, and if you're saying, well, he's got to hit that exceptional level every single game, he's only human. He's not going to do that. But I still think I still think he'll have a really good season, strong seasons, and he's still a top player. So, all players go through little dips in form. Class is permanent, they say, and I think he's a class player, and I think he'll still get back to those really excellent performances and push the team on. So maybe this season, probably the eye test tells you he's not doing quite so well as last season, but I still think the numbers are reasonable. He just needs a few more goals.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think people might look at stats and might look, he's scored such and such goals and assists this season, but I feel like he's carried us for such a long time. And I feel like for me, maybe he's papered over the cracks a bit with the striker. Like you said, we've really
Mm.
needed a striker for such a long time, and we have had a lot of goals from Martinelli, from Saka, and that obviously has helped with the striker situation. And I know that Jesus obviously has scored a lot as well and helped us, but I just think that I think he's overtired with how much he's done for us, especially last season. I thought he was tremendous, and I still think he's doing really good this season. But like you said, he's probably not getting as many goals. But yeah, I think people can be a bit harsh on him because maybe we know what we expect of him, and if he's not doing that, people can be a bit harsh. But
Mm.
yeah, I
I
definitely.
really, I really enjoy watching him play. So when you go as a fan, like I do, I go to every home game. One of the things I look forward to is seeing him play. And whenever he's still the one person who gets me off my seat, and he's still the one person when he gets the ball. My expectation is, I just think something's going to happen all the time. He just needs that one moment, to do something outstanding. The way he moves across the pitch is just a joy to watch. So I think, we're judging him by such high standards, and if he has a slight dip, you know, people were saying he's not as good as he was last year. Believe me, he's still a top player playing well. He's, and I still think, even last night there's moments when he could have created something. He was in good positions. He got round the back a couple of times. And just it didn't quite happen for him last night. And just going back to your earlier point, I thought Martin Odegaard was excellent last night. I thought he had a really good game. He was unlucky to be on the losing side last night. I thought he was the one creative spark we had last night.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like you could see how intelligent he is as a player with the moves he made, and I feel like we could have been playing all day. We just wouldn't have scored. Like it was one
No,
of those.
one of those nights. One of those nights.
Yeah,
Though.
it was like I feel like every time we went forward, I just knew we're not going to score. Like it was really frustrating to watch. And I know we have touched on Martinelli, and I've always said, as a player, you'd never know what they're going through. Behind closed
Mm.
doors, as fans, we probably might not know. But for you, as we've mentioned, we are playing a bit different this season, and if he is performing a bit like this, do you think he should be dropped? And maybe for me, I do like Trossard's like on the side, but I feel like with Trossard though, when he comes off the bench, he has this big impact. And when
Yeah,
Trossard plays the full game, I don't know why
yeah.
it is, but I don't feel like he makes that much of an impact. But for you, do you think we should give Martelli a few more games and then maybe give him a rest, or would you like to see someone else come in?
Well, it's very difficult, isn't it? Because I listened to obviously some of the the AFTV interviews when I got in last night. Dan Potts, who's a very good friend of mine, Dan, and he was questioning Martinelli at the moment, and he loves Martinelli. I know he loves Martinelli. Look, I think he's not in the best form, but the problem is if you're going to replace someone, you've got to replace someone who's better. Now
Yeah,
you could say, what are the options at Arsenal at the moment? I just don't see Reece Nelson. I know, and it could be that he's not had the number of games. You could argue that. Give him a chance. I just don't think he's as good as Martinelli. And it's all right replacing someone if you've got someone who could come in and do a better job. I just don't see we've got that strength in depth at Arsenal at the moment. I think we are lacking serious competition for Saka and Martinelli. I'll be honest with you. And that's one of the reasons I think why we were linked to Neto early in the season. Because I think that they do want somebody who's going to provide competition for these two wide players. I just don't think we've got the quality in those
yeah,
wide areas to replace him. So I think we got to play him through that form and do something to change it up in some way. Maybe move him down the middle, maybe get him closer to goal. I do think this year he's working back a lot more defensively, and also by the time he gets up to him up top, he's faced with set defences. That's not his strength. So I just think we need to get him closer to goal, and we're not doing that at the moment. So I wouldn't replace him. I just think we've got to do something to change the way we're playing against certain opposition. When we come up against these teams at the Emirates who sit on low block, and I know a lot of them are doing that quite a lot now. I just think we've got to change the way we play. We've got to play quicker. We maybe got to change the way we use some of these players. We did it with Saka. We started to use him more in the inside forward position at times. But I think we need to possibly to get more out of Gabriel Martinelli, get him closer to goal. That's just a thought off the top of my head. But in answer to your question, I know a lot of people would drop him at the moment because they see his output, only 2 goals in something like 16 league games, and he's clearly wasn't at it last night. But I think that's partly because of the way he's being asked to play by Arteta. I have to say that.
yeah.
So, but I just don't see who we're going to replace him with. You could replace him with Reece Nelson. Is that going to improve the team? Probably, I don't think so. I love Reece. He's a great talented footballer, but I don't think he's at the level of Gabriel Martinelli. And Trossard, I don't think he's out and out left winger. So I just don't know how you improve. You've got to get. I think Arteta said it in his post match last night. We've got to get these players playing better. And do them. Sort of like not replace them, but getting them back to what they were doing last season.
Yeah.
And how do we do that? I think it might be he has to think about the way we're playing.
Yeah, I do feel like, especially with some of our attackers, like it isn't clicking as much. And like you said, it's definitely due to how we are playing. We do play a bit different this season. And I'm with you. I feel like Martinelli, we know what a great player is and we know what he can do. When he scored that goal against Man City and we won that game, for me, I know he had that deflection, but it just shows that he can really get us those goals when we're really struggling. So And we don't
Yeah,
really have a lot. Yeah, go on.
sorry. Did you notice? Sorry to cut you short there. But did you notice where he was when he scored that goal against Man City? Where was he on the pitch? He was literally just out. He was in the close coming in from the left hand side, uh, in the inside forward position near the D of the penalty box. I know he hit the shot and it took a deflection, but he'd
Yeah.
come inside, hadn't he? He got closer to goal. So and he scored a goal at Luton where he was on the end of a quick break from a cross where he got across the defender in the 6 yard box and got the goal. I just think we need to get him close to the goal, Sophie.
Yeah.
Because he's a goal scorer. He can score goals. He did it last year, 15 goals. Why is he? Has his output dropped so dramatically? I can only assume it's because of the way we're asking him to play. I just don't see any other reason for the massive drop off.
Yeah, there has been for me a big drop off. Like, I think he's a player who likes his freedom and likes to express himself on the pitch. And I just feel like what I noticed with how we played yesterday, we weren't doing things quick enough. We were very slow at what we did. We like took too many touches, and when we were going forward, I felt like we were quite slow. And I do think something needs to change. You know, we obviously have got Fulham, and last time we played them, we did draw with them, I think. So
Mm.
I feel like we've got to really think quick about how we're going to change things. But I don't think it helps that we've got quite a few injuries, and um, there's only so many players you can bring on that can make that impact. Like, I think for me, I do really like Trossard when he comes off the bench. Like
Yeah,
back a few years
good
ago,
point.
he reminds me of like Giroud when he would come on and score
Yeah.
goals.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
so
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do remember that. Well, first of all, I agree with you. He's a very good impact player, and he's often come on and made a difference. So yeah, that's a very good point you make. And I also do remember Giroud coming off the bench. I do remember Giroud when he was in the team, and and he was criticised a lot. The season when me and you were talking before we did the show last tonight, that you remember that season back in 2016 when 15-16 when Welbeck scored that header, and we thought we were onto something here. We might be even winning the league. But that was a year when Giroud had one of his worst ever seasons in front of goal. I seem to think because I think Mesut Ozil had his year of record assists or creating big chances, wherever it was. And Giroud was obviously not scoring that year. So, but I just think to me it just highlights at the moment that probably I love Gabriel Jesus as a footballer, what he brings to the team, but sometimes I think you do need that. If you look at, I'll leave it like this: if Man City had been playing that game last night, they would have had, and Haaland had been fit. Haaland had been playing down the middle. Liverpool would have been playing that game last night. They would have had Salah in the team. That is the difference between us and them at the moment. They've got these elite forwards, world class forwards. Liverpool got Salah. Haaland have got Man City. If West Ham had been playing against those two teams last night, I'm pretty sure both City and Liverpool would have scored or broke them down because they had that quality up front that we didn't have.
yeah, I've said this for a while. Like when Aubameyang was, in his peak before he
Mm.
signed that new contract, I felt like
Yeah,
I've forgotten what it feels like to not like feel like we've got a striker at the club. But I do
yeah,
think I've said Jesus Eddie. Well, I'll start with Jesus. I think Jesus, especially in the Champions League, his form has been great. But
yes.
I do see that he misses a lot of chances, like especially a lot of the headers. But I know Jesus has saved us as well when we needed him. So, but I have said with Eddie, I do think he's a good squad player. When he comes on
Mm.
occasionally, he can really help us. And I'm not forgetting what he's done for us, but they won't win us the league together. And I've said this for a while, and we know how big the January transfer window is. But I just want to ask you a bit about the league because we know Liverpool, Man City have these threats going forward. They've got world class players up front, and obviously we sort of miss that aspect of the game because we don't really have that right now. But for you, if we signed a striker in January, do you think that would be enough for us to win the league?
I think we desperately need to do that. I think if we're going to win the league, I think that this was a real reality check last night. This defeat because it showed us where we're short. But it's very difficult. There's very few top quality strikers out there. and you could easily go out and waste a lot of money on the wrong one in January. Whereas if you waited to the summer, you would get probably the better one. So it's all about, is it about short term gain to win the league, and there's no guarantee we'll win the league anyway, or is it about waiting to the summer to get the right man? The other thing, of course, we have to be careful with is financial fair play, because I think we've already spent a lot of money over the last 2 years within our range, and I think that's one of the reasons why I took Raya on loan, because obviously the financial fair play stopped us from signing him. So if we're going to buy a striker, I think we're going to have to offload pretty quickly, and someone like Eddie would have to go, maybe Smith Rowe would have to go. We'd probably have to sell even Ramsdale or something like that, to sort of like stay within financial fair play. But if something can be done, if there is a striker out there who Arteta thinks could do the job, and we can, do it within the rules, I think it's something we should do. But the question is, do we sort of like gamble now? Because the point is, there's very few top quality strikers out there. If you look around, Tony's the one everyone's talking about, but Brentford are going to want a massive sum of money for him.
Yeah, people have said 100 million, and I think that's ridiculous for him.
Osman is probably the best one in world football out there at the moment, apart from Haaland and Kane, and he's playing in Italy. They're not gonna sell him. This window, you struggle to get top quality strikers or even any signings in. I know we got bought Aubameyang a few years ago in this window, but that cuts against the grain, really. I think you struggle to get top quality players in, because clubs are not going to sell their best players in January, are they? Because normally they're all fighting for positions for themselves. So
Yeah.
it's going to be difficult. But I just think if we don't, I think last night showed me we probably do lack a centre forward, a dominant centre forward. Because if we had that, we could mix it up more, go long and put balls into the box. I'm pretty sure of a Haaland, if you had that headed chance that Jesus had last night, he would have buried that. So it's a difficult one, isn't it? But I do think if we can get the right player, we should do it. But it's going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah, I think, like you said, buying strikers now is a lot difficult. A few years ago, there's a lot more out there. And I think for me, I think the sensible thing, if you look at it in the summer, if you do get the right striker, then it would be great. But I think in the January transfer window, I know Partey's another one that, he could be going because he gets injured. So I think if we did, depending on how much money, we'll get and whatever Arteta and Edu's ideas are, I do think we need a few players in, for me personally.
Yeah,
I think for me, a player that I do worry about is Zinchenko, because
yeah,
I don't doubt his ability going forward. We've seen that he's really helped us, especially last season.
yeah,
But I do think he can be a liability at the back, especially at
yeah.
Anfield. And what do you make of him? I just wanted to ask you a bit about that.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I knew this Zinchenko question would come up tonight. Because I think me and James, as you know, do that Tactical Insight show, and we did a feature on it a couple of weeks ago after the Wolves game, when he gave away the goal against Wolves, when we were cruising at 2-0 and they got back to 2-1. And so we were sort of like posing the question, what is the trade-off with Zinchenko? His attacking play against his defensive some people will say liability. I don't say that, but that's what some people say. I get that. I understand what people are saying, because, I think we knew when we signed him, we weren't buying an out and out quality left back. We were buying someone who's more of a midfielder. He plays in midfield for Ukraine, but he can play at left back. But we knew we bought him. Arteta saw a role for him inverting into midfield, and then he saw sort of like the defence pushing across to cover his gap, or somebody on the left side of midfield coming across to cover when he went forward. But defensively this year, there's no doubt about it, this season more than last, he's been caught out on several occasions that have led to goals. The Salah one, for example. Give credit to Trent Alexander-Arnold for an absolutely brilliant ball, and Salah for world-class finishing, but you could argue he didn't defend it very well. Again, he's given the ball away a few times last night that didn't lead to goals. So I can understand where we are with it. I think my view is he wouldn't be in the team at the moment if it wasn't for the injuries. I think that
Mm.
Arteta had already upgraded. I think he saw Jurian Timber as the possible solution on that side defensively. But of course, he got injured straight away against Nottingham Forest, didn't he? So we lost a key player there. And Tomiyasu was doing really well, and we lost him to injury. So the option at the moment
Yeah.
on that left side is either Zinchenko or Kivior. Kivior. Now Kivior is a great centre back. If he's not a left back for me. Zinchenko is more the left back, even though he's not. You can argue an out and out left back. We put Kieran Tierney out on loan, didn't we? So is that something you need to think about recalling him? That's a question I think Arteta might want to consider, because Kieran Tierney is more a solid defensive left back, but he doesn't play in the way that Arteta wants his teams to play. That's the problem with Kieran Tierney. So I do think Zinchenko, I think this will be his last. I think he'll be, I'm saying he's going to be phased out, but I can see Arteta upgrading it in that area, either through Timber coming back and getting into that position, or moving Zinchenko out of first choice for that position at least over the next year. But at the moment, it's sort of like he offers us a lot in the way we build up. Although last night I thought he was on the ball, he was taking too long with his passes last night. I thought, and that's a problem with him. But it's a question of what he offers offensively against what he doesn't offer defensively, and how do you solve the problem of him? When we lose the ball. And that's what I think Arteta tries to do. It hasn't been working so well this year. So, yeah, I mean, I can see what you're saying. I did think I can understand why there's a lot of criticism going that way at the moment, because over the last few weeks he has made a few errors, and some have led to goals. But last season he had an excellent season, and when he plays well, when he helps us build the play, he is a good footballer. But he's not a great defender. I think we know that, and unfortunately this year he's made a few errors.
Yeah, I do think, like with Zinchenko, like you said, in our build-up play, especially going forward, I think he does offer quite a lot, and that's why I'm kind of not really giving up on him, and I want to see more from him this season. But I think because of our injuries with Timber, with Tomiyasu, we will, like, you can't. I know Kivior, like you said, you can bring him in, and I think Kivior is really good, but he's more of a centre back. So, but I think I'm very much happy to see how it goes. But I think when you do have the big teams like Man City, Liverpool, you will get caught out a bit more because they will take their chances and they will be more ruthless probably than some other teams. But I think with Tierney, like I felt like in this last season or so, he wasn't really playing the way Arteta wanted him to play, and it didn't feel like he was fitting our style of play as much as he used to. But I think with Tierney, he defensively he has always been quite solid, and you kind of know what to expect from him. But I don't think he would come back. I don't know if Arteta would say that. I'm not too sure, but I think with Sinchenko, we'll definitely have to see how it goes for the season. But I did want to ask you a bit about Arteta because he has been here a little while now. Obviously, we have won the FA Cup. We've also been through some, difficult moments. But in the last, season or two, we've really shown that we're challenging for the league. We can go to Anfield and challenge them. Man City at home, we showed that we can beat them. I know people might say we got a bit of luck, but we really did. We're really showing that fighting spirit in those games. But for you, do you believe that Arteta will bring us success back to the club? Because a lot of fans are saying if he doesn't win us silverware, then maybe he should go. But I just want to get your thoughts on what you make of him so far.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because he's spent a lot of money now. He's got the players. This is very much his team, Sophie. He's of the 11, which is his favoured 11 now, including the goalkeeper. Remember he brought in Raya this year for Ramsdale, and let's make no bones about it. He did bring in Raya to replace Ramsdale, in my opinion. He's got 9 of the 11 that he's bought of the first choice 11. The only 2 that he hasn't bought were there before were Martinelli and Saka, obviously. I know you could argue Partey was there before, but I'm talking about. I see he wants his midfield. I think is Rice, Havertz and Odegaard. I think that's what he would say is, whether people like it or not, that's what he wants in his midfield three. But he's got his team now, and he's got us now really competitive, challenging for the league. He's brought us back to where we should be as a football club. We're a big club. We should be competing for league titles. We should be in the Champions League. He's delivered that. Um, the argument is, of course, all the time he goes on where he doesn't win the league or he doesn't win a major trophy, when
Yeah,
does it become acceptable? And that is such a difficult one to sort of like analyze at the moment, because he's just, over the last year, we come from nowhere last year for the challenge for the league. No one saw us even competing for the league last year, and he delivered that. He's a brilliant coach. He's got us playing. He's got us playing great football, dominating games, and I think he's got the club back to where a lot of us wanted to be a few years ago. Back end of Wenger's reign, when Emery came in, we were sort of like conceding loads of shots. The gap between the front and the back was wide. Teams were walking through us. I was at the Emirates when we lost 3-0 to Man City. They were 3 up in 20 minutes. The gap between our midfield and our defence was massive. They were just walking through the team, and we were looking at a bit of a poor team, So he's got the standards back up high again. He's got the team sort of like believing again. He's developed the young players. You have to give him credit for that. I think he needs a bit longer. You
yeah,
also have to remember he's up against Manchester City, who are an absolute juggernaut. They are well, they are. They've just won the treble. They're the best team in world football. How they've done it, you could argue they broke financial fair play and all that stuff, whatever you want to say. But he's up. He's in a league where Man City are in it. If he was in some of the other leagues around the world, he might be winning a league title. So
yeah,
you have to factor that in. And Liverpool under Klopp, Klopp is a top manager, and they've resurfaced again this year. So I think where I am with it is, I think I'm not somebody who wants the manager to be changed if we don't win a league title in a few years. You know, I want to see us sort of like give him every opportunity to build the team. And so I would say that we have to be patient, and give him a bit longer. As long as the team continues on the upward trajectory, because there's no doubt that if he doesn't work out this year, he'll look back and how he's where it went wrong, and he'll try and improve it for next season, and maybe he'll look at bringing that top quality forward in we need if we can get one, and improve the team in other areas. But I think he knows himself. I think he was questioning his own ability last year when the title slipped away. When we sort of like choked, or whatever you want to call it, at the end. He held himself personally responsible for that. I think he'll know if he's not doing a good job. So, and I think he sets high standards for himself and high standards for the team. So, but questions will always be asked. They should be asked, because Arsenal is a top football club. So, but we've seen other clubs change their managers. Look at Manchester United; they've been changing their manager. They brought in some big names, Ferguson, and since Ferguson, they brought in Mourinho, Van Gaal. They haven't won a league title for 12 years. They haven't won a major trophy for 12 years, if you're talking about major trophies. And then they're the biggest club in world football for me. So I think we've got to give him time, Sophie. That's where I am with it.
yeah. I agree. I feel like I get people's frustrations. Like if we came out of the season and we don't win anything again, it will feel a bit disappointing, because I said last season I felt like Arteta did a lot right and he did deserve a trophy, and the team did deserve that for their hard work, and it just was a very frustrating end to a really brilliant season. But I think for me, like if you got rid of Arteta, I felt like I just feel like that would be a completely the wrong thing to do, because like I know we have had a few bumps in the ride, and I've said Arteta has really needed to bring in his own players that he wants in his team, because there were a lot of players from the Wenger days, from the Uni Emery days, and Arteta really needed time to bring his own players in, and obviously a lot of them are his own players now. Um, but yeah, I think Arteta, I do believe he understands Arsenal as a club, he understands the values and what it means, and a lot of people used to say the Emirates was like a library, and when I've been in recent years, you do see this togetherness, this real change in the culture, and I feel like that's down to Arteta for what he's built. So I feel like obviously trophies is the most important thing, but we can't really forget what else he's done as well. But I do think we possibly will win a trophy this year. I know the FA Cup's a big one, but we know we want to win the league. But it's obviously, I feel like last season would have been a perfect opportunity because Liverpool weren't at the best. A few other teams kind of slipped up a bit, and it was really us and Man City. A lot of the time, it was us until the right at the end, and it's obviously a difficult one to take. But um, as I've always said, to take it game by game. I said that last season. Like I'm not really a fan that gets too carried away. Like obviously, when we do beat big teams, we'll enjoy that moment and celebrate it. But I do hope we can win the league. Before we do, I did want to ask you, Graham. I know I did touch on it before, but we know injuries affect seasons, and we know if we don't bring a striker in, it can, might make it a bit more harder. But do you believe we can win the league this season?
Oh, obviously, yes. I think we've got a great chance. I think that I'll be honest with you. I always think that Manchester City are the team I think will win the league because I think they are the best team. But you know, and you could argue that the best team always wins the league over 38 games. They got a phenomenal squad, and they're getting Kevin De Bruyne back now. He's been out the first half of the season. They've got Haaland, and they've got they've got such a great squad, more depth than anybody. So you expect them to win the league, but I still think that Liverpool and us have got a chance. Um, so I wouldn't write us off yet. I think this transfer window though could be crucial for us to strengthen, if not up front, certainly in other areas of the team like midfield. Because we're losing Thomas Partey to Afcon, and then he's going as well. I think he's going to need some midfield cover. And maybe some cover at fullback because I think Ben White is sort of struggling a bit this year.
Yeah,
He's had a few injuries. I don't think he's quite at the levels he was last year. And as you said, Zinchenko, if they could maybe add something there, it would help. I think we got a chance. I just think we need to get back to sort of like playing the sort of football we did last year. Sort of like when we were on that fantastic run, and we were playing the best football in the league last year. The trouble is, as you say, you're always up against a team like Man City. You can string together 13, 14 wins from nowhere and take it away from you. They've done that, over the last years, on more than one occasion. But I still think we've got a chance. I think, you as a fan, you always have to believe, and I think we've got a good group of players. We've got a good, bright young manager, and I think on our day we're capable of beating anyone. And I still think that we've got a chance to win this league. But obviously the performances over the last few weeks, we've only, I think we've lost two, drew one, only won one of the last four. Haven't been good enough. We were a bit lucky to win at Luton. I thought we weren't great on that
yeah,
night. We need to get back to what we were doing earlier in the season, because we did start the season reasonably well this year. We beat Man United, we beat Man City. We're on a fairly good run, and hopefully, we can sort of like rediscover that goal scoring touch again, and we can start, Saka Martinelli can start scoring the goals again, and maybe we can start getting back to the levels where we can start winning games, and that breeds confidence, of course. And then, of course, you start believing again. Obviously we got some big games coming up. We've got to go to Manchester City. We've got to get. We got to play Liverpool again in the league in February. That'd be a massive game, wouldn't it? I think if we could win that one at home to Liverpool, that'd give us a bit of belief, because they won't be. Salah will be off at Afcon then, so we won't have Salah. If we could turn Liverpool over, maybe that'd be just the thing we need to get going again. I think the team has got tremendous potential. I think they're, great young players. Unfortunately for us, we're in the league with Man City. I said it earlier, didn't I? I think Man City is such a strong side. So, but we went close last year, and of course everyone's expecting us to go closer this year. That's the expectation levels have risen, haven't they? That's the thing. So, but as a fan, I always believe, Sophie, and if you don't believe, there's no point following your team, is there? So I believe, and I will always believe we can win it until we can't.
yeah. I'm with you on that. Even like the last few years, especially being a fan, we have, faced difficult moments, but I still don't give up on this team. I still believe that we can still give it a good go. I've said I just would like us to maintain where we are. Like last season, I just didn't want it to be one season where we go for the league. I want us to keep going and showing that we can challenge for the title. I think for me, when we're at the Emirates, like I know we did struggle to beat West Ham yesterday, but I just feel like any team in the Premier League, I feel like we can give them a good go, like especially Man City, Liverpool. I know last season we did beat Liverpool 3-2, I think. So I feel like we just got to find our form back and we just need to find the back of the net right now because
Mm.
I think we definitely have to beat Fulham. I mean, I'm not going to say if we don't win it, we won't win the league because Man City have had quite a few bad results. And like you said, they're catching up with us. So, yeah, I've always said I'll take it a game at a time because you can't really say right now who it is. I mean, I know Aston Villa are also in the mix, but I think
Mm.
it'd be like a Leicester if they won the league. People wouldn't expect it, but you just can't predict. Like you said, with results, you never know who can beat each other. But yeah, hopefully we can win the league. Hopefully we'll definitely get more silverware back at the club. But Graham, it was really lovely to talk to you tonight. I know that we've known each other for a little while on Twitter, so it was finally really lovely to chat with you.
Yeah, do you know what, Sophie? I'll just big yourself up, because I think you're a real credit to the Arsenal fan base. I always enjoy reading your positivity about the club. We follow each other on Twitter. I think you've done some outstanding stuff, over the last few years for the club. Your positivity towards the team is always there, been recognised. I've seen you've got a nice friendship with Laura Woods, I know, and I think that I think you're a really genuine, nice person and a credit to our fan base. And we've always talked about doing this sort of like little session tonight, and I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. And I just want to wish you and all the Arsenal fans a very happy and prosperous new year, and just hope that we can deliver that title. Never say never, Sophie. I've been
Yeah,
fortunate
you
in my life.
never stop believing.
I've followed the club for 50 years. I've seen us win a few league titles in my time. My son's 23. He's seen us win a few FA Cups. He's never seen us win the league. I'd love it if we won the league for him. So, but I think we follow a great club, and it's been one of the great loves of my life has been Arsenal. So, and I'm so glad to share it with so many Arsenal fans out there. So, thanks for inviting me on, and keep doing what you're doing. Because I really enjoy your positivity and love for the club.
Oh, you're so, so kind. And I really likewise too. I love watching your stuff on AFTV and have for a long time. And it's obviously great to have really, positive Arsenal fans like yourself, your stuff. And it's, you're really knowledgeable to listen to. And I've learned a lot from you. And I hope you guys that watch this back have, enjoyed this one too. And hope you all do have a happy new year and hope you've had a lovely Christmas too. But we'll definitely have to get you back on sometime because I enjoyed this. It went really quick. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I know you're quite busy, so I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Sophie. Take care.
You too. See you soon. Bye.
Bye bye.